And they're also all-weather investments. When I moved to Central California from New York City 11 plus years ago, it was interesting and fascinating to me being introduced to the asset class in sort of this tail end of, what is going to happen next part of the Great Recession, right? The Great Financial Crisis. And, things were up in the air, particularly in the commercial real estate market and particularly in the Central Valley. It was hit very hard. But one of the things that really attracted me to the asset class was the seemingly unlimited demand from tenants trying to lease these small tenant spaces. And let me clarify, when we're talking about small tenant spaces, we're talking about, roughly about 2,000 square feet plus or minus. And multi-tenant industrial has, different unit sizes, but one of the unit sizes that we really like is sort of that 1,500 plus, 2,000 is really the sweet spot. It depends on the markets in which we operate. Obviously, we want to deliver a project that's attractive to tenants and is needed. But we really found that tenants in challenged economies, sort of like where we are today in the economy, and there's some uncertainty, this particular asset class performs better. And it performs better than a lot of other asset classes, and it performs a lot better than various forms of other parts of the industrial asset class. And there's a number of different elements that go into that. If you've spoken to me before, or I encourage you to set up an appointment and we can do a one-on-one and we can discuss things in detail. But one of the things I really liked was in challenged economies, industrial tenants, retail tenants, office tenants, doesn't matter the asset class, they're looking to downsize. And there's not a lot of good options in sort of that small industrials, particularly in California where it's really hard to develop. And there's a number of different factors, very hard to finance. We talked about the difficulties in the development process. And if you do have a good balance sheet and you're going to develop industrial, oftentimes it ends up being, the Teslas or Amazons that we mentioned, because from a psychological standpoint and from a banking standpoint that's going to issue credit, it's just easier for them to get their head around in sort of their really rigid, underwriting criteria. So they're difficult to finance and they're difficult to build, but if you do have the expertise and you have the background, it can be done, and it can be done where other people maybe have overlooked those markets, and that's really where the advantage is.